begin the stakeholder comment period momentarily. The Department of Cannabis Regulation is recording this meeting by audio and visual means. By continuing with this meeting, you consent to this recording and acknowledge that the Department of Cannabis Regulation owns the recording and may use or reproduce it in any manner it deems necessary. If you do not consent to being recorded, please discontinue your participation in this meeting. Good morning all again, and thank you for joining today's Spark Session and Stakeholder Comment Period. My name is Raina Plummer, and I am the Public Relations Specialist for the City of Los Angeles, Department of Cannabis Regulation. Welcome to today's Spark Session and Stakeholder Comment Period. On April 20th, 2021, DCR launched Spark, a multifaceted program that lets community members engage with DCR through a variety of methods, including virtual events, comments, surveys, and informational collateral. At the end of this initiative, we will be compiling a report of every comment, survey, and feedback received. This report will provide recommendations that will shape future cannabis policy in the city of Los Angeles. Since launching Spark, we have been collecting stakeholder comments through our Spark comment box. However, we want to provide additional time and space for people to be able to leave a comment verbally. Prior to the beginning of each Spark session, we will be allowing stakeholders and members of the community to provide stakeholder comments orally. Our Spark partner, MBI Media, will be managing this effort before handing the Spark session back over to DCR. Now, I will provide a few quick things to remember about this stakeholder comment period. To raise your hand, use the raise your hand feature, or if you're calling from a phone, use *9 to raise your hand. Participants will have 2 minutes to speak. Participants are allowed to speak once per stakeholder comment period. This period is for comment collection only and not a conversational time. We will not be responding to questions during this time. We will just be taking down your comments. We just want to hear from you. Now, I will pass the mic over to Pamela Smith with MBI Media to conduct our stakeholder comment period.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. We will begin taking stakeholder comments. My associate, Ms. Bogdan, will be muting and unmuting attendees as they raise their hand to speak. As Ms. Plummer stated, everyone will be given 2 minutes to speak. Ms. Bogdan, please feel free to unmute the first raised hand. D. Boss, you are unmuted and you may begin to speak. D. Boss, if you're there, you're going to need to do *6.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you have 2 minutes. You may begin.
Okay, the money that was awarded to the DCR social equity applicants, I don't know why that money shouldn't be divided up equally, and the DCR should work individually with social equity applicants to ensure that their entry into whatever cannabis venture they choose can be awarded or gained, because it's not equitable. If one social equity applicant receives some of them millions of dollars to 10,000, however much money was allocated, it should be divvied up equally. That's the whole point of the program, is equality, having access to the monies that's available. And if the state give y'all $3 million, $6 million, you all should divide that up equally between the social equity applicants so that we all can have a chance to get in this business. Because the two things that's preventing us from getting in the business is, for one, the high cost, and two, finding the location. You all can help us find locations or 420 friendly landlords, which I've been looking since 2019, since we started this. So if one applicant receives money, they all should be able to get the money, put in some sort of account for them so that you all can individually work with us so that we can gain what this program was started for in the first place. Because otherwise than that, then why was the program started and it's not equal? If one get it and one don't, that's the same equality we've been dealing with in the beginning. So I would like for you all to take that into consideration, that you all need to assign us all a caseworker or whatever and give us part of that money and help us individually get into the business of our choice. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you very much, DeVos. And next we will be unmuting caller ending in the last 4 phone digits, 8030.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Hansel Urbina with the Cannabis Equity Retail Association. We represent the first 100 invoice participants from September 3rd. We request that the DCR recommended the City Council to reduce sensitive use buffers from 700 feet to 600 feet from retail store to retail store to better accommodate all of the 200 invoice participants, specifically because at the June 30th commission meeting, the DCR stated verbatim, so the next part of the presentation is going to be designed to first address P3RR1 applicants that have been deemed eligible for processing. These are the initial 100 that are part of phase 3 round 1. DCR now has the ability to allow for existing phase 3 round 1 retail storefront applicants to request a relocation of their business premises location within the same community plan in the area that they originally had applied for. As part of this process, DCR will be sending out a communication to all 100 applicants deemed eligible to ask them 3 very minor questions. Do you currently have site control of your business premises location? Yes or no? If no, we will work with you to give you the opportunity to amend your application and find another compliant location within the community plan where you were originally approved to move an application forward. However, it was never mentioned in the LAMC, nor in the instructions of the survey sent out August 14th, nor in the business premises relocation forms that we would lose our area if we have to relocate. I feel like I never had a chance for licensure starting October 20th because of having to relocate on October 20th when Commissioner Ahn asked how long the first group of 100 or 200 had to relocate. It was said by Ms. Packer, people who don't have to go through the relocation process are going to progress through the temporary approval process more quickly because on October 20th,
time. Your 2 minutes is up. We're going to the next caller, but thank you for your time. The next caller.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next caller will be Evelyn Smith. Evelyn Smith, you're being unmuted. And your time will begin right now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my name is not Evelyn Smith. My name is Evelyn Scott.
I apologize, Ms. Scott.
Thank you. Okay, now that you know my name, I'm a social equity owner in District 10. I would like to address the application process delays, lack of communication, and inaccurate information from the DCR. We are currently in the licensing process, and in order to move forward, our modification relocation has to be completed. For months dating back to October of 2020, we've submitted every document requested to continue the modification process, and yet we still get emails saying that the DCR does not know when our modification will be deemed eligible for further processing. Do not know is an unacceptable answer, especially considering the facts that Assistant Executive Director Jason Killeen makes it look like the applicants are the ones failing to submit proper documentation in the commission meetings, then has the audacity not to respond to emails. The fact is the department is neglecting to make social equity a priority. We should have received our modification invoice and local authorization letters months ago. I think it's disrespectful when applicants call the DCR inquiring about social equity and staff asks if it's a non-existing program, stating, and I quote, Spark and Seed program is not a part of DCR licensing. The community is sick of the games. We are tired of hearing the same old excuses. Priority processing, fee deferrals, grants, and community reinvestment is needed now, as promised over 3 years ago. And it shouldn't take over 60 days to have funds in applicants' hands. What we are asking for is simple business practices. We have waited long enough. We have been lied to long enough, and we are being punished for being ready. We were ready in 2017. Tell me this, executive directors, how many of those 3 temporary approval licenses have been issued to Black businesses, fully owned and operated Black businesses? Do your jobs and stop with the same old crap year after year. Black businesses matter. Thank you.
Thank you. The next caller we'll be taking is the last name Gorman. You will have 2 minutes to speak starting now. Ms. Gorman, you're on.
Hello, good morning. Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. I am Karmishra Gorman. I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball with all of this. I came into the awareness of the social equity program around the audit last year when I read about something either in the media. So my take on this is that I think that there probably wasn't enough done to alert the public of these programs and accessibility of these programs. I am interested in getting into business in the private sector. There are opportunities where the public can take advantage of opportunities where the city is helping individuals like myself who are low income, who are capable of running a business, who need a leg up, then I think that this city should make a greater effort to reach out to those people. I'd also like to know if these discussions are likely to lead to business opportunities for people like me. And I think this is a good time for the city to re-explore, audit, and rethink how this has been developed, and come up with ways into this program. And of course, I don't necessarily fit all the qualifications. I don't have a previous marijuana conviction. However, I feel like opportunity should be made available to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to remind everybody that this is our stakeholder comment period. Feel free to raise your hand or use *9 to raise your hand if you're calling from a phone to provide stakeholder comment. We will be accepting questions in the Q&A starting at 10 a.m. But feel free to raise your hand. If you would like to leave a stakeholder comment, and MBI Media will be happy to take down your comments. Thank you.
The next caller we have is Alexis Luna Reyes. Ms. Reyes, you have the floor.
Grand Rising, my name is Alexis Luna Reyes. I'm a social equity partner with Jason Michaels, application number LA-C-18-000406. Now formed under the corporation JC Rad Inc. We are in our 2nd year of operations under limited immunity, as we did not have any organizational structure when applying to the city for phase 2 licensing. In 2019, we submitted our license application under our social equity candidate's legal name, Jason Michaels. In late 2019, we formed a corporation, and when made available, submitted our modification requests for a legal name change and an ownership change. We have paid all fees and submitted all notarized forms requested by DCR. We have been in contact bi-weekly with our DCR license analysts regarding the mod request process. On April 23rd, we received a phase 1 state renewal request from the Bureau of Cannabis Control. When we submitted the first documentation request to our state analyst last week, a staff services manager from the Bureau of Cannabis Control responded, informing us that on May 3rd, 2021, our local jurisdiction, DCR, notified the Bureau of Cannabis Control that we were non-compliant. I explained the situation regarding our mod request, review, and need for a legal name change, as this is what is keeping us under limited immunity. The manager from the Bureau of Cannabis Control stated yesterday, May 7th, that the local jurisdiction, DCR, must reach out to them by May 13th, 2021, stating we are eligible for temporary approval or a state distribution license application will be denied for renewal. It would be a detriment to our growing business to be denied renewal of our state license. I understand that DCR is doing everything they can in attempt to process the mod request. However, if we are not deemed temporary approval by May 13th, 2021, we will be denied further processing with the state. We have been communicating with DCR and need assistance with this situation, as it is a timely matter and the future of our business depends upon this communication to the Bureau of Cannabis Control by May 13th, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Reyes. The next person with a raised hand is Brandon Brinson. You will have yes, and you will have 2 minutes beginning right now.
All right. My name is Brandon Brinson. I'm a social equity owner in the 10th district, and I just want to say that this entire social equity program has been the most corrupt distraction that I've ever been a part of. Week after week, you guys pour your lies on us and yet do anything that was promised to us back in 2017. Kat Packer has been lying and rocking us to sleep with her $65 words that she has yet to act on. The SEED program and Spark program are both distractions from the real situations we are dealing with. I spoke with DCR the other day, and they have absolutely no clue what these programs are from the whichever rep you guys have at the front or answering the phone. At this point, we see that it's just a continued cycle of bullshit. This program was never designed for people like us. This program was never designed for the real people that was harmed by the war on drugs. You guys had a hidden agenda the entire time. And it's more and more clear every meeting that you guys are not for social equity. We are just here for a look. No real action has taken place. And it's really sad on y'all part. And shame on you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. At this time, if anyone else would like to make a comment, please raise your hand by doing *9 and then unmuting by doing *6. The next person to make public comment will be Kika Keith.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, after an extensive social equity analysis in 2017, ordered by City Council, there were 3 tenets established for the social equity program. And this is in 2017. It was to have priority licenses, employment opportunity, and community reinvestment. Those were the tenets of the social equity program. To date, there has been no corporate responsibility reporting to fulfill the obligation of this analysis for community reinvestment. We have not had $1 come directly to a social equity applicant, although there has been $12 million in state funding, $3 million back in 2019. We have not had access to fee waivers. $250,000 of the $700,000 was allocated back in 2018 to phase 2. We have over 200 phase 3 applicants that have not had $1, not $1 issued in 3 years. It is a point now where we can no longer talk about the opportunity. We need to start talking about results. We have had stakeholder comments since 2017. Comments after comments. When will there be results? So now we're asking for priority, expedited licensing. Expedited. There is no reason why after 3 years, after a lawsuit, after an audit, that there is not expedited licensing. If in fact there are only 66 people, less than 70 people of the 200 that have turned in all of their applications, there should be no reason that we are still waiting for licensing reviews. So I ask that the DCR be transparent about their processes and their administration. We see that flow chart, but what happens once that application hits? How many analysts are reviewing the application that at this
Thank you, Ms. Keith, for your comments. If there's anyone else that would like to make a comment at this time, please raise your hand by doing *9 on your phone or computer. And Raina, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you. I'm going to make a quick reminder. On April 5th, the department changed their virtual public counter service hours. The hours are now Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and we are closed on Friday. Again, we are in our stakeholder comment period. This is from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The Spark session will begin at 10 a.m. If you would like to make a stakeholder comment at this time, feel free to raise your hand. If you are calling from a phone, it's *9. And then participants will have 2 minutes each to speak. Again, we want your comments. We want to hear from our community. Feel free to leave us a stakeholder comment. Ms. Smith,
Okay,
I
see that we have a comment from Ms. Cynthia Morrissey. Ms. Morrissey, you will be unmuted and you will have 2 minutes.
Hello?
Yes, you are on and you have the floor for 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to speak on what we were speaking before. I am also social equity. I'm number 174. And I'm just going to speak out how I feel. I've been in this journey for 3.5 years, and we were promised so many things that nothing has been done. I'm a 9 to 5. I work 9 to 5, 2 jobs, have a family, trying to do this. This program was made for social equity. Social equity applicants, we're all minorities. We're not rich people. We're minorities. The state has issued the DCR funds just for us to be able to proceed. We haven't been able to proceed. I'm stuck. I have no money because I was paying my lease for 3 years. I'm in debt with family members just because we were promised something. They committed fraud on us, okay? And we were still hoping, and we had that hope, and we hold on to our spaces. Thank God that, we sued the city, and the city was able to agree and give us our license. But now we're stuck just there with our space and no business. We're social equity. Social equity was meant for us minority, not for the rich people. So where is our money? Where are you guys holding it down? We need this money. I have a child that has disabilities. This was an opportunity for me to be able to stay home and be with my child. And I don't see that opportunity coming. I don't know when is it gonna be the end of the tunnel, the light for me. I work 2 jobs. I have someone that, come in and out of my house just to help me with my son, to be able to be able to do this. I'm ready. I'm hungry. I'm hungry for you guys to release that money to us.
Thank you. Thank you for your 2-minute comment, Ms. Morrissey. We appreciate it. The next person that we will be yielding the floor to is with the initials M.E. M.E., you will have 2 minutes once you begin speaking. M.E., you may need to do *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yep, you're there.
Can you
Yep.
hear me?
Yes, and you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mtume. And what I'm about to say most likely is going to offend some people. And if it does, then you are part of the problem. This is not social equity in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It is exactly the opposite, and everyone knows it. It seems like this Garcetti dude set up in a room with hunkies and kikes, and they concocted this smoke and mirrors Jim Crow program. Then they passed it on to the predator kike lawyers who view Black people as liquid gold. They then disseminated it to their clients, who are the investors. A plethora of backroom deals ensued. And all the verified Black social equity applicants, you know, the descendants of slaves, we lose. Fuck this social equity program.
Sir, I'm going to mute you because I'm going to have to ask, you're saying a lot of derogatory things at this point. So if you'd like to continue, I'll unmute you. But if that continues, we'll have to move on to the next person that would like to speak. You may unmute yourself again if you'd like to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, but we would kindly ask, sir, that you watch your language.
Okay, I'll watch it from here on out. You feel me? I'm looking at it, but it ain't saying nothing back to me. But I just want to thank you guys. I'm glad to get that out. And again, this is not social equity. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. The next person that we have with a raised hand would be Elevate Culture.
Great Rising.
We'll have 2 minutes beginning now.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. My name is Alfred Torregano. I'm a social equity applicant number 28. And, you know, as I sit back and think about hearing the woes and the ups and downs of this program, I sit back and think about how I really believe that this program was well-intended, purpose-driven. That's what the language really says. But now it's time to actually fulfill those promises, right? Measure M wanted to create social justice reform as well as social equity program. And so this is very much a racial equity thing. As much as we can't use race because of affirmative action, we know who were the most affected by the war on drugs. And we don't have access to capital. We don't have enough capital. I've read that Long Beach is giving some $300,000 to individual applicants. Now, I understand the ratios are different, but we're in the largest market in America and arguably the world. We need the capital, or because what really happened is without access to capital or no funding mechanisms, technical assistance, truly, what happens is we leave the private market to determine what our social equity really is. And so now we're in the middle of all of these, I call them used car salesmen, because they're really giving us these used car loans. And it's really disrespectful, but historically in our community, where do the used cars dealers are? They're in our community. So we normally take those loans out of desperation and lack of access to capital. And so we really need more capital so we can actually start our businesses without these bad loans and not just, that's just the way it is. And so, you know, also, I would love to promote and help and have you guys recommend with us a tax credit for social equity businesses, because I don't believe that we lost. I believe we still can win. Together, we can do this. So we need a social equity tax credit. We need a social equity supplier mandate.
Thank you for your time. Your time is up, and thank you very much for your comment. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Ms. Plummer, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. I want to give another quick reminder. Our next Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting will be Thursday, May 20th, 2021. It begins at 2 p.m. To access the commission meeting, you can watch it from the DCR homepage. Our website is cannabis.lacity.org. And it's on the homepage, or under the About section, there is the Cannabis Regulation Commission menu, and you can access the meeting from there as well. Again, the next commission meeting will be Thursday, May 20th, 2021.
Great, and I see that we have another raised hand. Madison Shockley. Wait, looks like there we go. Madison Shockley, you are being unmuted and you have 2 minutes.
All right, forgive the noise in the background. I just want to echo the sentiment that the other callers have called in and talked about. You know, at this point, I mean, I see the programming that's coming down the pipe. I know you guys have been working hard on that, and it serves a purpose. But I think what a lot of people are saying is it's like a little too late. And considering what we've been through at this point and how much money we've lost and kind of the dire situations that we're in, it feels like very little too late, you know. And is there something else that y'all can do that would meet the moment of what we're going through? Like, we need to get our doors open. We can't go 6 more months when we're basically ready, but we have to wait for you guys for 6 more months because of processing stuff. There has to be a way to expedite doors getting open. And I don't know what the answer to that is or how creative y'all got to get. And on top of that, there has to be money that comes to compensate for all this lost time. Like, y'all are kind of acting like, you know, we didn't lose hundreds of thousands of dollars off of you guys' delays and incompetence in standing up this program over 3 years. Where is the acknowledgement of what the community has lost? There's literally been hundreds of millions of dollars pumped into you know, all of us applicants trying to create social equity retail dispensaries here in LA, and all that's down the drain. So where's the get back for that? Like, there's been no talk or acknowledgement of that, and it just feels disrespectful considering what we've lived through over the last few years. So I just wanted to, you know, I think that's where a lot of the sentiment is coming from. It's like, do you guys recognize like the trauma that we've been through just participating in this? And will you guys do something that will actually meet our needs to make up for it?
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Your 2 minutes are up, but thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. This is our Spark Session stakeholder comment period. This is a period for you guys to be able to give us any of these kind of great comments. We appreciate you joining us this morning. The comment period will continue until 10 a.m. when we will start the Spark Session. As you leave comments during the stakeholder comment period, please feel free to give recommendations, any specific notes you think we should take into consideration. This Spark Initiative is really a place for us to get collective feedback and create a compiled report with every comment, survey, and feedback received to help us provide recommendations that will help shape the future of cannabis policy here in the city. So any specific recommendations or comments would definitely help us as we are building out Spark and building out these reports. Again, this is our stakeholder comment period. Another quick announcement before we continue the period. The Spark virtual meeting room is available. Inside the Spark virtual meeting room, you can RSVP for our future Spark sessions, watch the past Spark session, utilize the Spark resource station, or take a Spark survey, or provide feedback in the Spark comment box. Again, we are looking for any and every type of comment, recommendation, or suggestion that you guys might have on how to better cannabis policy and the social equity program here in Los Angeles. To access the virtual meeting room from the DCR webpage at cannabis.lacity.org, on the homepage, you'll see a Spark carousel that will allow you to go straight to the Spark landing page. On that landing page, you'll see a button that says enter now. Once you hit that button, you will enter the Spark virtual meeting room. And again, it's a very interactive meeting room, and it has a lot of different resources inside of the room to help educate and provide informational materials to the community. So if there's anything you think that we should also create, give us that comment. If you think there's things that we can work on, let us know. Leave those comments in the comment box. We also, again, have 2 surveys up right now, and we'd love to get your thoughts through those surveys. I'm going to see if there's any more raised hands right now.
Right now, there are no raised hands. We have approximately 20 minutes left in this comment period. So please, if you'd like to be heard, okay, we have a new person that's raised their hand. We will be yielding the floor to Coyote Shivers. As soon as you begin speaking, we will start your 2-minute comment. Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, yes, I'm concerned about my constituents here. I want to make sure that this program promotes equal access, or not promotes, but ensures equal access for each and every individual, and that it neither discriminates nor gives special preferences to any individual whatsoever. First, because of course that would be morally wrong, but second, because it would lay the groundwork for unlimited civil rights lawsuits against the city, which would end up costing innocent taxpayers. So that's my major concern.
Okay, thank you very much for your comment. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
If there's anyone else that would like to make a comment, please. Okay, we have a new comment. The last name is Ross. You will have 2 minutes upon. Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me clear?
I sure can. You may speak, and you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Micah Ross. Back in September of 2017, Marquise Harris Dawson was called into a meeting for cannabis. And unfortunately, my time is short because I am on the road, but as you've heard all of the people before, Miss Kika Keith, Madison, Evelyn, and so many others share their story on how so many hardships have happened. You know, this program was designed for, as the other young lady had spoken earlier, for minorities. And unfortunately, we are getting the short end of the stick. You know, I am a strong believer in this industry. I do believe we can win, but please hear us. You know, fee deferrals, allowing us to be able to have access to capital so these people, myself included, can open our doors and begin our businesses as we were promised over 3 years ago. So many people have struggled, and as you can hear, people are tied up in debt. And it's time for you to take care of that promise. It's time for you to act on that promise and serve the people of this community so we can do what we do best, and that is create more wealth within our own communities and serve our communities on a much higher scale. Again, you may not fully understand this because you may not be a minority yourself, but you don't know what it's like to wake up every day and see hardship. So it's time for you guys to hear it. Not just hearing a bunch of people complain, but people who are seriously hungry for change in our community. And again, thank you for your time and attention. Unfortunately, I have to step away, but please make sure you listen to us. Have a great day.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Ross. We really appreciate it. Next up, we will be bringing on a person with the phone number with the last 4 digits of 8217. That's 8217. And your 2 minutes will begin upon you speaking. And you may need to *6 to unmute yourself.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Hey, good morning. My name is Jesse Callier, social equity applicant number 151. And I just want to echo, you know, what my constituents are kind of conveying to you guys. First things first, focusing on phase 3, round 1, I just want to make a suggestion. If we can kind of organize and create a program to where you guys can efficiently, you know, adhere and hear us out, you know, and communicate with us directly instead of just having these comment boards. You know, it's like our comments are bouncing off a wall and it's not actually being heard because we're not seeing anything being done about it. Secondly, Jason Colleen, time after time, you know, with these charts, you know, he likes to focus on phase 2, and just, you know, phase 3 just gets hidden in the cracks. and there's no reason why, there's 197 applicants still waiting to get their doors open. I just want to know, are we being used, the Black and brown community, are we being used as that Trojan horse just to appear good? And I yield.
Thank you for your time, sir. We really appreciate your comment. Next up, we will be hearing from Raquel B.
Hi, my name's Raquel. I'm calling in regards to just to make a public comment regarding the program. This program was created to reduce barriers. And it just seems as if, we have had barriers after barriers placed upon us throughout this program. We are victims from the war on drugs. And I feel like this program has re-victimized all of us over and over. The word no and we can't do has been told to us for years. And we're tired of it, especially when we're in a position to have an opportunity that we are owed. And I just feel like, when we're talking about transparency, we want accountability. I feel like having a dashboard or something to reflect the process of who's in line and show the priority will help us all have a better overall view of transparency on to see exactly how things are being done from the planning department, so we can actually see results and have more success stories. I just kind of wanted to put that out there. I thank you guys for your time and your effort, but you guys know you can do much more. And it's simple. Release the licenses, get us done, give us priority, give us what we're earned, what we deserve. And I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you for a comment. We appreciate it. Next, we will be bringing on Louis. Louis, are you there?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I kind of wanted to agree with basically most of the comments that I've been hearing, given that we're really being used. And like a Trojan horse to get into the business. And that basically you're only interested in the money and not the advancements of communities affected by the war on drugs. You just basically want the resources from the business. And equity is being used as, like they said, the Trojan horse to be pursued, but never obtained. And you're just waiting for the big boys. You've given us a little space, but you haven't given us any of the help to make it work. And you're just waiting on we don't get any funding. We don't get any kind of help. You should listen to us and what we need. We know what we need to get there. But like you say, you have these little programs where you listen, but you don't do anything. It's just like a waiting game. And so if you would just listen to us, go each one and find out exactly what they need to be successful, instead of just waiting for the big boys. I know they're coming. We know they're coming. And you're not giving us the opportunity to be successful waiting on them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We have approximately 12 minutes left in this comment section. If you'd like to make a 2-minute comment, please raise your hand and we will allow you the floor. Don't forget to do *9 to raise your hand, followed by *6 to unmute yourself so that you may be heard.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. While we wait for the next hand, I'd like to make another announcement. We have created a Spark email list for specific updates related to the Spark initiative. To get all of the latest Spark news, direct access to the virtual meeting room, and other updates from DCR, visit the Spark landing page on our DCR website at cannabis.lacity.org. And then under the About menu, you'll see a menu selection for a page that says Spark. On that page, halfway down, you'll see a box on the right. It's highlighted in red here that says Get Spark Email Updates. That's where you can sign up for Spark specific email updates. I want to remind everybody that we are currently in our stakeholder comment period. As Ms. Smith said, we have approximately 10 minutes left of the stakeholder comment period. If you would like to make a comment, please feel free to raise your hand. If you're calling via the phone, you can use *9 to raise your hand. Participants, you guys have 2 minutes to speak. And then we would love to get your comments. Again, we will be answering questions in the Q&A box beginning at 10 a.m. But for right now, we are just taking stakeholder comments. And as a reminder, this is leading up to our Spark session at 10 a.m. Our Spark sessions are virtual events targeted on different topics to help us gather feedback and also provide some information to the community about what we are working on and what's going on. This session today will be focused on the social equity program. We will be speaking about the social equity program. We'll have some great participants. I can't wait till we get to 10 a.m. to begin that. This is the first time we're doing the stakeholder comment period in front of a Spark session. All of our Spark sessions moving forward will have this Spark stakeholder comment period before each session. And we really want to use this time to get comments from the community that will help us create a report that will provide recommendations to help shape the future of cannabis policy and the social equity program here in LA. And so we definitely want to hear specific comments and feedback, suggestions, anything that you guys have had. We've heard a lot from people who are in the current process, and then we want to hear from those who aren't. How can we help shape the future of cannabis policy and the social equity program here in LA? I will now pass it back to Ms. Smith to see if we have any raised hands.
Yes, we have an Evelyn Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Scott, you know what, before you speak, we're trying to make sure that everyone's heard. So I'm going to remute you. I'm going to put you back on mute only because we want to make sure that everyone has a chance.
Well, if nobody speaks in the next few minutes, I have one other question since we're just in a waiting period. I just don't want the 10 minutes to go by.
Okay, thank you. We have another raised hand, L. Pinckney.
Hi, yes. I just have a question for the other participants, maybe, or attendees. Is there any way we can hear from someone who had a successful session or successful experience with DCR, who's been able to go through the process successfully?
Is that your comment?
It's a comment question, yes.
If there are any attendees that have not spoken that would like to make a comment, they're more than welcome to make a comment. We also have a commission meeting on Thursday, May 20th. And so that's another forum to also provide comment or to hear from other applicants and licensees. So thank you, and we will take that comment down. Ms. Smith, are there any additional new raised hands?
No, at this time, there are no additional new raised hands. If anyone that has not had a chance to speak would like to speak, we have a couple of minutes left. We have approximately 8 minutes until we move into our session. So again, please *9 to raise your hand, followed by *6 to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Or if there's anybody who has not left a comment yet and would like to leave a comment, please feel free to. Again, we have about 5 to 7 minutes remaining of this stakeholder comment period. The stakeholder comment period, again, is to collect feedback from you guys. I think we might have a raised hand, Pamela.
You know what, both of the people currently have spoken, so I'm trying to encourage anyone else that has not had a moment to speak to please raise their hand. If someone has not had a moment, we'd like everyone to share the floor so that their voice is heard. I have another person phone number, last digits 8217. And you know what, I think this person's already spoken to, so we don't have any new callers at this time, Ms. Plummer.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. We will be beginning the Spark session at 10 a.m., which is right around the corner. So we hope you guys will stay with us through that after the stakeholder comment period into our Spark session. As a reminder, everybody is given 2 minutes. We would like for everybody to just have their 2 minutes to speak. And we'll be doing these stakeholder comment periods before each of our Spark sessions. The next Spark session will be next Wednesday, and it will be focused on licensing and regulation. And again, there will be a stakeholder comment period prior to that. So from 5 to 6 p.m., there will be a stakeholder comment period. And then from 6 to 7, we'll have our Spark session.
Okay, and since we have a couple of additional minutes, I am going to go ahead and allow repeat comments at this time. Please remember that you have 2 minutes. So Mr. Shockley, we're going to go back to you.
Actually, Pamela.
Yes.
We're gonna in the effort of fairness, we're just gonna keep people to one person once per a session. Right. Yeah, because then we'll get everybody that'll make it want to comment again, and the stakeholder comment period would go on forever. So we'll keep it to one person, once time per a stakeholder comment period. If you guys have additional comments at this time, you can also use our Spark comment box, which is available via the virtual meeting room. To get there, again, there's cannabis.lacity.org. Go to the Spark landing page, and from there you'll enter the virtual meeting room, and you can leave a Spark comment via the comment box. And with those comments, you can drop those in at any time. It's available 24/7. We have about 4 or 5 minutes before our Spark session begins. And again, we have a lot of great speakers here today, and we'll have a great session.
I have a new person that would like to make a comment.
Perfect, thank you. I'll let you take
Plummer. Thank you. Person with the last 4 digits, 8030.
I'm sorry, I already spoke and I just heard the further announcement, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have just a couple more minutes. We have time for probably one more comment. If a person has not made a comment now, please raise your hand. And again, we're looking for new comments, people that have not had a chance to be heard yet. Any new commenters at this time? We have 3 minutes left.
Again, this is our stakeholder comment period. We're about to wrap this up and start the Spark session in just a few minutes. We have time for one last comment. If there's anybody new who has joined and would like to leave a comment, if you've already left a verbal comment with us, you can also feel free to use the Spark comment box. Again, all of these comments will be collected and compiled, analyzed, and put together in a report that will provide recommendations to the City Council and Mayor to help shape future cannabis policy and the social equity program here in Los Angeles. I see a few hands. I'm not sure if any of them are new. If so, I want to go ahead and try to get them in. Ms. Smith.
Looks like I have one New person, Jesse Terry.
Great. I think Jesse will be our last comment then. Thank you.
Hey guys, it's really a shame that you guys can't answer anybody else's question with 15 minutes remaining on this comment thing. You guys just keep saying the same things in regards to reminders. This is solely to communicate with the community, but yet you guys are repeating the same things. It's a shame.
Thank you. Does that conclude your comment? Okay. And Ms. Plummer, at this time, it looks like we are out of time. We do not have any additional commenters at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. And before we wrap up the stakeholder comment period, I want to let everybody know that if you have the applicant or licensees have questions, they can contact DCR through email at dcrlicensing@lacity.org or call 213-978-0738 to speak to a DCR representative. Again, our hours have changed. We are now available Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and closed on Friday, our virtual public counter. So feel free to email us at dcrlicensing@lacity.org if you have specific licensing questions. For non-applicants and licensees with other questions, feel free to email cannabis@lacity.org with your general questions. For things related to Spark, you can of course contact us through the virtual meeting room and all of our different Spark means. Feel free to leave a Spark comment or use one of our surveys. We look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you all again for joining us this morning for this Spark session and stakeholder comment period. The stakeholder comment period is now closed. We will begin the Spark session momentarily. Good morning again, and thank you for joining us for today's Spark session. We will begin the presentation momentarily. The Department of Cannabis Regulation is recording this meeting by audio and visual means. By continuing with this meeting, you consent to this recording and acknowledge that the Department of Cannabis Regulation owns the recording and may use or reproduce it in any manner it deems necessary. If you do not consent to being recorded, please discontinue your participation in this meeting. Good morning again, everybody. Thank you to those who joined us for the stakeholder comment period. I wanted to give a few additional Spark Sessions guidelines before we move forward. We will be using the polls feature throughout the day, throughout today's session. So when those polls come up, please feel free to participate. When the polls come up, we'll probably have them up around a minute, and then we'll show the results to everybody. So you will see what other people, other attendees presented as well or picked in their poll questions. These Spark sessions are informational sessions. And so we're going to be presenting information and then of course doing those polls. All of this information, any polls or surveys that we get feedback on will be collected and compiled into a report that we will put together, and it will present recommendations to the City Council and the Mayor to help shape the future of cannabis policy. Ms. Smith, can you please make sure everybody who was an attendee is now muted and unallowed to speak?
Yes.
I'm continuing on. If you have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function. And at the bottom of the screen, you should be able to use the Q&A function to leave a comment, or a question. If you have specific licensing and application questions, please submit those to dcrlicensing@lacity.org. Before I introduce our panelists, I'd like to briefly review a few updates from our Spark campaign. A lot has happened since we launched on April 20th, 2021. Last Wednesday, April 28th, 2021, we hosted our first Spark session. It was a general session. We had between 60 and 70 attendees. It was a great time. We were able to provide general information to our constituents. We had commissioners attending as well. Commission President On and Vice President Mason attended. When we heard from Director Packer and Dr. Brown. In addition, we have launched our stakeholder comment period for each of our Spark sessions. And we have also made sure that the Spark meeting room is up to date, and it has the comment box and the surveys that we've previously mentioned are available. I will now pass the presentation over to DCR's Executive Director, Packer, who will begin with introductions and opening remarks for today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm trying to start my camera, but it says that I'm unable to start video because the host has stopped it. Ms. Plummer, if you can make sure my video is available, I'd appreciate it.
Please try now, Director Packer.
All right, thank you so much, Raina. I appreciate it. Good morning to everyone. I appreciate folks joining on a Saturday morning for this Spark session. My name is Kat Packer, and I'm the Executive Director of the City of Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulation. Welcome to our second Spark session. Spark is a tool that the Department of Cannabis Regulation and Cannabis Regulation Commission are using to provide an additional forum for folks to share information with the department and commission. Participants of Spark should see themselves as part of a focus group or a study that will provide information to the department and Cannabis Regulation Commission so that we can use your recommendations and input in our role and responsibility to advise the City of Los Angeles, including the mayor and city council on cannabis-related policy in the City of Los Angeles. Again, this is an opportunity for stakeholders to provide input. I do want to thank all of the stakeholders who are on today's Spark session, who provided a stakeholder comment this morning, and who have participated in these surveys and shared comment through the Spark comment box. As feedback is received through Spark, it will be used by NBI Media to create a report. This report will analyze the input that stakeholders provide, but it won't provide recommendations. What will happen after this report is transmitted is that the department and the commission will have an opportunity to make recommendations based on input provided by stakeholders. We want to be able to make stakeholder-informed recommendations on cannabis-related policies and programs in the City of Los Angeles to the City Council and Mayor. Again, this is a department-led initiative, but we've invited the Cannabis Regulation Commission to use Spark as a tool to receive additional information from stakeholders in the community in a more organized fashion. We know that folks have shared information and input with us over the course of the last several years through a number of means, but particularly with limited communication staff, we needed a better way to be able to capture all of that information in one place, to be able to analyze it in a transparent fashion, and then also to be able to present information and data based on stakeholder input from stakeholders directly to City Council and the Mayor. So this will allow us to analyze your input and that information in a more intentional way. With Spark, we will be able to be more bold with our approach to outreach and engagement in social equity. For folks who are in today's Spark session, both the participants and panelists and folks who are listening in, you are a stakeholder in this process. And it is a process. And later on in the session, Ms. Plummer will walk you through the various steps of that process. But we know that many folks have an opinion or feedback on cannabis policy, and particularly our social equity program. We intentionally did broader outreach for Spark sessions to try and bring in folks who may not normally consider themselves stakeholders. But the reality is that we need feedback from as many people as possible. We recognize that in order for us to advance equity in cannabis policy reform, it's a collective effort, it's an ongoing effort. It doesn't happen with one policy or program. Equity has to be intertwined systematically into all of our government processes. And so we want to be able to take the input that we receive from stakeholders and to present that back to City Council and the mayor. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this. The reality is that we're still figuring out cannabis law and policy, much like many other jurisdictions across the United States. And we're still trying to figure out how best to advance cannabis policy here in the city of Los Angeles. I appreciate stakeholders who have continued to join via public comment at commission meetings and who joined today. I would encourage folks, and I know that folks raised different priorities and comments that will be captured in the report as well, but I do want to encourage folks to also use the stakeholder comment box that's available in the Spark virtual meeting room to make sure that if there are any additional or more specific recommendations that folks have, that those are reflected in the final report. I think that it's our effort that through this Spark report, we can get direct feedback from stakeholders on the prioritization of different policies and programs. We can use this as a vehicle to engage with City Council and the Mayor's office, on things like community reinvestment, supplier mandates. We can use this to build data dashboards, et cetera, and some of the great comments that were raised by stakeholders. So this is the type of feedback that we want to be able to receive. We're in the phase of the process where we're trying to just collect information. So just to do a little bit of expectation management up front, I want to be transparent in sharing that we are in the process of collecting information. We expect a report on all of the information that we're collecting to be available in August. And then we want to be able to work with stakeholders, with our Cannabis Regulation Commission after this report comes out to have further conversations to make recommendations to the City Council and Mayor. Now, there are folks who have been a part of this process since I've been a part of this process several years ago, and folks recognize that it again is a multi-step process. We have to be able to engage with City Council and the Mayor's office on a number of these different items. So we want to be able to organize with community, partner with stakeholders on this call and who are joining us and providing input through other mechanisms to make sure that we're taking your input to improve our policies and programs. We've gone through this process over the course of the last several years, and we've learned many lessons along the way. We've been able to take many of those lessons and show progress, but we recognize that there's still a lot of work to do. And essentially, until there is an elimination of disparities, we recognize that there's still work to do. And much of the progress that we've made thus far has been driven by our ability to hear directly from stakeholders. Case in point, just last year, we went through a process supported by the Cannabis Regulation Commissioners, where we made amendments, comprehensive amendments to the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance to do things like provide every applicant the ability to receive temporary approval, to strengthen our definition of equity share, to establish in policy a financial grant program for the first time, which we launched just last week. So we recognize that there is a process to move these conversations forward. It does require transparency, accountability, and partnership. And so we want to partner with communities and policymakers to make that effort, particularly as we move into the fall. Part of what I'm most excited and most interested in is using Spark as a vehicle to engage with different residents and community members. Even in the stakeholder comment that we heard this morning, there's a diversity of opinion about how eligibility criteria should be structured, or who should be eligible for financial grants, or what is the appropriate level of funding for social equity applicants who are participants in the social equity program. And part of what we have to figure out is how to build those programs to scale. Someone mentioned for example, the resources that the city of Long Beach is able to provide to their social equity applicants. I'm not confirming this, I'm not sure that this is true, but just for example, Long Beach is able to provide grants of $300,000 to their social equity applicants versus our ability to provide a lesser amount. If we had a $20 million allocation, for example, for our grant program with 1,600 applicants, folks may only be walking away with $12,500. And so we have to figure out, particularly when we're prioritizing the allocation of resources, what makes most sense. We want to make sure that the decisions that either we're making as a department or as a commission, or the recommendations that we're making to council as they make those decisions, are informed by program participants. But again, there is a diversity of opinion amongst the social equity community, and we want to make sure that that diversity is reflected in the input that is collected. And we also want to make sure that our elected leadership understands the impact of cannabis policy, and want to make sure that we have stakeholder and community-driven policies. We've done our best to do that to date, but again, we want to be able to be more intentional about that effort. We are interested in being bold with the policy recommendations we will make. We know that we have an opportunity and responsibility to do that here in the city of Los Angeles. Right now, I'd like to introduce the other folks who will be presenting today. First, we have Social Equity Program Director, Dr. Amani Brown. Dr. Brown, please feel free to provide some opening remarks.
Thank you, Director Packer, and good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Brown, and I'm the Director of the Social Equity Program, and I'll be presenting more about the Social Equity Program later on in today's presentation. However, I did want to take a moment to say thank you for sharing your Saturday morning with us. Our goals for today is that you leave this session more informed about our licensing and social equity programs and feel more comfortable with our initiatives moving forward. Today's objective is for you to take away valuable information regarding the social equity program, and for DCR to take and gather substantive comments and suggestions from you that will help us with future policy initiatives and progressive program planning. With that, I'll turn it back over to Director Packer. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Next, we have two of our Cannabis Regulation Commission commissioners joining today's Spark session, Commissioners Villa and Naro. Please feel free to present opening remarks. We'll start with Commissioner Villa.
Good morning. Thank you, Director Packer and Dr. Brown. We appreciate the opportunity to participate in today's Spark session. This initiative is something that I'm proud to support. Receiving direct feedback from the community will help us shape our recommendations to the city leadership. The Social Equity Program was designed to provide opportunities to those in marginalized communities and to address the disproportionate impacts of the war on drugs in those communities. It has taken longer than we would have liked to get this program started, but now we need the stakeholders' input to refine and improve our policies. Thank you. Commissioner Naro.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Villa, and thank you, Director Packard and Dr. Brown, and to the to the great staff of the department. I'm grateful to be in this space this morning, and I just want everyone to know that, you know, we are listening, and we do listen greatly to all the comments. Every perspective and every comment matters for us, and we're looking forward to this process leading us to receiving everyone's comments and inputs and creating a set of recommendations that we can move forward with the City of Los Angeles. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here, and I also want to thank the staff for bringing us all together in this presentation. So thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Director Packer.
Thank you so much, commissioners. I appreciate you joining in today's Spark session. Both the department and the Cannabis Regulation Commission have the authority to advise the City Council and Mayor on the development of cannabis policy. And so, and I know that our commission president and vice president joined the general session. I think it's going to be critically important and just another opportunity for the Cannabis Regulation Commission to make policy recommendations to the City Council and Mayor in a more intentional way. So I appreciate your participation in this effort so that when we make recommendations, it's both the department and the commission, but most importantly, community stakeholders that are driving the development of cannabis policy here in the City of Los Angeles. So thank you. As folks can see, both the department and commission are committed to developing and improving cannabis social equity programming here in the City of Los Angeles, but that needs your input. Part of what we're going to do, at least for the rest of today's Spark session, is just to provide some background on the development of the city's social equity program and to provide information about specific components of social equity programming. Part of the reason why we're doing this is that we're hoping that through segmenting the presentation that folks are able to say, after, for example, we provide information about eligibility criteria, folks may say, well, I have this particular recommendation or input on what eligibility criteria should be. We talk about application processing that may spark input that you have about, for example, what expedited or priority processing should look like for social equity applicants relative to other applicants. So the intention here for the rest of the program is to provide information that folks can provide direct response and feedback to. Again, we will have another Spark session dedicated specifically to the social equity program. Folks will be able to provide additional feedback at that Spark stakeholder comment period and throughout the duration of the Spark initiative through the Spark surveys and the Spark comment tool. This is not the only means for us to collect information, but we did want to make sure that through the stakeholder comment process and also through some of the polls that we'll go through today, that there are a number of mechanisms for folks to provide feedback. So again, the mission of the social equity program is to promote equitable ownership and employment opportunities in the cannabis industry in order to decrease disparities in life outcomes for marginalized communities and to address the disproportionate impacts of the war on drugs in those communities. I'm going to walk through kind of from the legalization effort in California in 2016 to date, some of the milestones that have existed over the course of the last several years in the development and implementation of the social equity program, because I think that that's helpful to contextualize where we are today and why we are where we are today. I recognize even in the stakeholder comments that we received that many folks are simply waiting for programs to begin that were authorized in policy back in 2017, but have taken years to develop and make available to the community. And there's a reason for that. I try to be as intentional as possible when I engage with council members in the mayor's office here in the city of Los Angeles and also in other jurisdictions when I articulate how important the order of operations is and the timeline in which different components of programming are administered because they're impactful. And so, for example, there were decisions made to begin application processing before certain program components were funded or because before certain program components were made available. And so part of what I wanted to be able to do is just first walk folks through a few slides, provide milestones, but I'm hoping that through some of this context, stakeholders are able to directly engage with us and provide additional recommendations and feedbacks about how we move forward. Next slide. So very quickly, and providing this context for folks who may be joining for the first time, but also just to remind folks where we've been, help us get a better direction of where we're going. So in 2016, California voters passed Proposition 64, which legalized both medical and adult use sales for the first time in the state of California. It wasn't until 2017 in March that the city of Los Angeles passed its own local voter initiative to allow the city to regulate, tax, and enforce against commercial cannabis activity for both medical and adult use. Prior to 2017, the city of Los Angeles did not regulate the medical cannabis industry. There were a series of policies that were on the books at the local level that provided limited immunity from prosecution to certain businesses who met certain requirements, but there was not a framework to manage and or regulate medical cannabis operators in the city of Los Angeles. After the city of Los Angeles passed its voter initiative, the city council and mayor established a Department of Cannabis Regulation and a Cannabis Regulation Commission. I started in August of 2017, and as soon as I began, there was ongoing conversations about how the city would structure its social equity program, namely trying to identify how the city could reduce barriers to entry into our local market and who should be eligible for specific programming that would be developed specifically towards that end. In order to provide a framework in the city of Los Angeles, the city conducted a social equity analysis where it analyzed which communities and individuals were most impacted by cannabis enforcement. There was a specific period of time where LAPD arrests were analyzed, and also things like low income and extremely low income communities were tracked. And through this social equity analysis, which was ultimately adopted into the framework for the social equity program, the city of Los Angeles established eligibility criteria for the social equity program. And we'll talk a little bit later about that eligibility criteria, and also provided a framework for different components of programming that would be available, namely access to licensing opportunities through priority processing relative to other applicants, and what was referred to as business licensing and compliance assistance, which would have come in the form of technical assistance from the Department of Cannabis Regulation. Ultimately, the City Council adopted the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance late in 2017, and it became effective in early 2018. Next slide. The ordinance itself required that the Department of Cannabis Regulation prioritize the review of existing medical marijuana dispensaries and their supply chain prior to making opportunities available to new applicants. As such, in 2018, at the top of 2018, phase 1 application processing began, where existing medical marijuana dispensaries were authorized to apply for vertically integrated adult use activities. And then in 2018, we began phase 2 application processing, which required that applicants meet eligibility criteria. However, it's important to note that we hadn't begun eligibility verification when phase 2 application processing began. So folks were able to apply before eligibility verification took place. Apologies. It wasn't until the summer of 2019 that we began eligibility verification for the social equity program. And during that time, we were able to verify over 1,600 individuals as meeting the original eligibility criteria. It was also in 2019 that the department was allocated funding for the first time for the social equity program. This included resources made available for business licensing and compliance assistance. In 2019, we also hired our social equity program director and began accepting applications to determine who would be eligible to apply for temporary approval through phase 3 retail round 1. Next slide, please. In 2020, DCR made comprehensive recommendations to the City Council regarding amendments to the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance. This included an expanded social equity analysis, providing all businesses the ability to relocate, clarifying processes for applicants to participate in the public convenience of necessity process, allowing individuals to participate in the social equity program based on either the new criteria or the original criteria, limiting retail and delivery opportunities to social equity applicants until January 1st of 2025, expanding the definition of equity share to try and strengthen provisions of the social equity program. In 2020, we also began accepting applications for phase 3 delivery, distribution, manufacturing, and testing. And throughout 2020 and 2021, the department had been allocated additional resources through the California Cannabis Equity Grant. We were able to launch our pro bono legal services. And just last week, we, through our SEED grant program, have begun to accept applications to make financial grants available to social equity applicants. Next slide.
Great, thank you, Director Packer. Today we will be utilizing the polls function, and I will launch the first poll question that we have. You'll see it appear in just 1 second. So our first poll question should be viewable now. It says, please select any of the below that have been a barrier to entering the commercial cannabis industry. We have rent or property requirements, access to capital, access to legal assistance, understanding local licensure requirements, understanding state licensure requirements, compliance requirements, and related costs, access/participating in state cannabis supply chain. We'll leave this up for the next 30 seconds or 45 seconds or so people can participate in the polls. Again, we want to hear from you guys. Feel free to enter into this poll. Please select any of the below that have been a barrier to entering the commercial cannabis industry. And we have a few selections here. Oh, we're getting some good replies. Great participation. We're going to leave the poll up for about another 30 seconds or so feel free to fill out this poll. Please select any of the below that have been a barrier to entering the commercial cannabis industry. Again, your input in these polls will help us create recommendations for the future. So this first poll question that we have, again, is please select any of the below that have been a barrier to entering the commercial cannabis industry. This is the first of 5 polls that we'll have throughout the session today. Feel free to fill out the poll. So we have a few selections. Please select any of the below that have been a barrier to entering the commercial cannabis industry. Rent/property requirements, access to capital, access to legal assistance, understanding local licensure requirements, understanding state licensure requirements, compliance requirements and related costs, accessing/participating in state cannabis supply chains. All right. We've had this up for about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's end it and let's share the results. Okay, so it looks like from what we see, please select any of the below that have been a barrier to entering the commercial cannabis industry. Access to capital, rent and property requirements, and compliance requirements and related costs are our top 3 choices. We're going to make sure we note those down. So again, these polls will help us in creating those reports and final recommendations that we'll be submitting to City Council and the Mayor to help us with the future of cannabis policy and the social equity program here in LA. And as we mentioned, we have Dr. Brown, who's the director of the social equity program on today. So these, again, will help us in determining what we can do moving forward and what we can recommend moving forward. I'm going to stop this poll now and give the presentation back over to Director Packer.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. Next slide. All right. Again, part of what we're trying to do through the presentation is to allow folks to ask specific questions or to make specific comments about various program requirements and resources that exist to date. We are focusing primarily on the policies and programming that exist to date in the presentation, but please feel free to continue to share comment about programs that have yet to be implemented or that have yet to be passed as policy here in the city of Los Angeles. You can again drop a comment in the Spark comment box. Some of the same questions that we're asking via poll are included in the survey. So I would just again ask that everyone who is participating in today's Spark session that you will also complete the Spark survey about the licensing and social equity program. There's been a lot of feedback and engagement from community about the eligibility criteria itself. And so I want to spend a little bit of time walking folks through the different eligibility criteria that existed, the original eligibility criteria, and then the expanded eligibility criteria that was passed by City Council last summer. Generally, the eligibility criteria centers around meeting some specific combination of being low income, living in a disproportionately impacted area, or having a cannabis arrest or conviction. In terms of the original eligibility criteria, the verification period for becoming verified based on the original criteria is closed. As previously stated, the department was able to verify approximately 1,600 applicants as meeting the criteria for either Tier 1 or Tier 2. Previously, the ordinance considered Tier 3 applicants to be social equity applicants. There were recent amendments that changed this term. So Tier 3 applicants are no longer considered social equity applicants. They are still required to meet the requirements in the ordinance, and in the next several months, the department will be sharing additional information about the implementation of those requirements. I know that we've gotten a lot of questions from the public about the implementation of the Tier 3 requirement. I want to make sure that folks recognize that that is still a requirement that exists. We will be implementing that requirement as part of the annual licensing process for businesses. So folks who have had questions about that particular Tier 3 program and requirements, please continue to stay engaged with the department. We'll share information about that. Folks qualify to be a Tier 1 social equity applicant if they are low income, have a prior cannabis arrest or conviction, or are low income and have lived in a disproportionately impacted area for a period of 5 years. Folks were considered to be Tier 2 applicants if they were low income and lived in a disproportionately impacted area for 5 years, or lived in a disproportionately impacted area for a minimum of 10 years. Both of these requirements, based on the original criteria, Tier 1 and Tier 2, the definition of disproportionately impacted areas was based on zip codes that since has changed, and disproportionately impacted area is now defined by a police reporting district. But again, there are 1,600 individuals who are verified as Tier 1 or Tier 2. Those are the individuals who can participate in social equity programming today. If individuals are have questions about whether or not they were verified under the original eligibility criteria, you can log into your Acela account and look under account management, and there should be an indication of whether or not your application is verified as a social equity applicant. Otherwise, individuals are not considered social equity applicants if you do not have that designation as Tier 1 or Tier 2. However, because the City Council has established new eligibility criteria, there will be a means for folks to be verified based on the new criteria. Very quickly, because when we start the eligibility verification, and before we start the eligibility verification for the expanded criteria or for Phase 3 Retail Round 2, we will do outreach and webinars to make sure that folks understand that criteria. But very quickly, just want to share some differences between the original eligibility criteria and the expanded eligibility criteria. Namely, the expanded eligibility criteria allows folks to participate if they meet any two of the three, either being low income, having a prior California cannabis arrest or conviction, or living in a disproportionately impacted area for a period of 10 years. Meeting that particular eligibility criteria and having a 51% ownership in the business entity would allow folks to receive program benefits like application processing, access to business licensing and compliance assistance. There is specific criteria to participate in Phase 3 Retail Round 2. Again, Phase 3 Retail Round 2 is for individuals who are trying to apply for a retail license specifically in a community plan area that has not reached undue concentration. For folks who are trying to apply for retail activity in an area that has reached undue concentration, applicants will need to go through the PCN process. And we're currently conducting a pilot for that PCN process right now. But based on the current ordinance, should it open again, all verified social equity applicants would have the opportunity to at least apply for a PCN finding. If that PCN finding, public convenience or necessity finding, was granted, folks would be able to apply for a retail license. Again, DCR will be sharing additional information about how to get verified based on this expanded criteria and the criteria for Phase 3 Retail Round 2 moving forward. But if you have specific input and recommendations on eligibility criteria, please share that input with us through the Spark comment box. Next slide. In addition to verifying that an individual meets the eligibility criteria for the program, the department is also responsible for verifying that the individual who meets those program requirements owns at least the minimum equity share of the business entity applying for licensure. The department has developed a number of resources and materials to provide guidance to members of the public about how to ensure that they provide evidence to us that these requirements are met. But to briefly describe, we want to make sure that the equity applicant has unconditional ownership of the equity share in the business, which means that it relates to profits, dividends, and distributions, voting rights, and control. We also require that all owners incorporate into their operating agreement evidence of compliance with equity share requirements, which comes in the form of a specific addendum that folks have to include in their operating agreements that must be reviewed before temporary approval is issued. Next slide. I guess I'll very quickly say, again, if folks have specific feedback or recommendations on the definition of equity share, about the implementation of equity share requirements, please provide that input to us through the Spark comment box.
Great, thank you, Director Packer. Right now, we are going to go to our second poll question. And thank you, Director Packer, for giving the explanation of social equity program verification. Our next question is, are you a verified social equity applicant? So for all of our participants and attendees today, let us know, are you currently verified as a social equity applicant? Looks like we're getting some responses rolling in. There's about 46 people voting, and the numbers are rising each second. 55% of people have already voted. We just covered the social equity program and the eligibility requirements. So we want to know, are you currently a verified social equity applicant? And we have about 65% of those attendees have voted. Oh, we're getting more in. Again, are you a verified social equity applicant? We just covered what that means. So this is our second poll question. After this, we have about 3 more poll questions throughout the presentation. Excuse me. So again, we're asking, are you a verified social equity applicant? And we have almost 70% of those attending have voted. So it looks like 69%, excuse me, of people attending are verified. Director Packer.
All right, thank you, Raina. I appreciate it. I'm now going to turn things over to Dr. Brown, who will provide specific information about different programming and resources that have been made available through the social equity program to date, or that are in the pipeline to become available. There are a series of questions, but again, as she goes through and provides information about the different resources that are available, if you have specific recommendations or input about those programs and policies, please provide that information to us in the Spark comment box. Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Director Packer. I will briefly walk you through our benefits and resources. And once again, the department supports the mission of the Social Equity Program by establishing these programs. And the resources do include priority application processing, business licensing and compliance assistance, access to a fee waiver and a fee deferral program, access to our SEED grant program, and access to our pro bono legal services. Next slide, please. Now, the chart that you see here details the status and the elements of the Social Equity Program and where we are to date. The application processing is available to selected activity types. Our SEED grant program was launched on 4/20. Our pro bono legal services are currently available for the first 200 qualified applicants from Phase 3 Retail Round 1. Our business licensing and compliance assistance program is in development, and we plan to launch this summer. And more details will be available in the coming months regarding the fee waiver and fee deferral programs. And I'll talk more about that later on in my presentation. Now, again, if you have feedback or recommendations about these programs or policies, please submit them through the Spark comment box. I think we have another poll question.
Yes, we do. Thank you. And I finally cleared my cough up. Sorry about that. I was so excited speaking. I got a little dry. So we're going to launch poll question number 3. And this one is a lot of options. So we're going to leave this up for a minute or so. Please indicate which topics you would like to receive more information about. Please select all that apply. So we have individual or entity level eligibility verification for the social equity program, the pre-application review or temporary approval process, invoicing and payment of fees, application modification process, inspection process, business development, payroll, inventory management and insurance, employee recruitment, fundraising and capital acquisition, or marketing and branding. So again, please indicate which of these topics you would like to receive more information about. We have individual or entity level eligibility verification for the social equity program, pre-application review or temporary approval process, invoicing and payment of fees, application modification process, inspection process, business development, payroll, inventory management, insurance, employee recruitment, fundraising and capital acquisition, or marketing and branding. It's a lot of great topics I'm interested to know about too. So please let us know. We're going to keep this poll up for a few more seconds, but please indicate which of the topics you would like to receive more information about. We have a lot of different topics you can choose and select from. So let's see these results. So from the, so please indicate which topics you would like to receive more information about. And the number 1 selection was fundraising and capital acquisition. followed by the pre-application review or temporary approval process, followed by application modification process, some marketing and branding. So thank you guys for participating. It's good to see what people want to get more information about. I will now pass the presentation back over to Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Raina. So I'll walk you briefly through the priority application processing. Now, verified social equity applicants do receive certain benefits relating to this application process. When certain requirements are met, they are eligible for priority processing and access to retail and delivery licenses, priority license application processing, priority license renewal processing. As such, individuals who are currently verified can participate in the following processes: priority application processing for manufacturing, distribution, testing, and testing. Retail, they'll go through the PCN process if they are in a area that's reached undue concentration, and they will also have exclusive delivery application processing. Retail and delivery will be exclusive until 2025 to social equity applicants. If you are currently verified as a social equity applicant, you do have access to licensure through the priority processing. And as stated by Director Packer previously, DCR will be sharing additional information about getting verified based on expanded criteria, either for phase 3, retail round 2, or other available programming. Next slide, please. Now I'll discuss in some detail about our business licensing and compliance program. BLC will provide social equity applicants with programming and training in the areas of state and local licensing requirements, commercial cannabis regulation, regular business development practices, cannabis-specific business development, and workforce development. To date, DCR has selected the following 5 vendors who will develop this curricula: High Demand Development, Los Angeles Metropolitan Churches, North Star Alliances, Oaksterdam University, and Wadeco Business Center. Now, we are actively working with our vendors to create curriculum with an expected rollout, as I mentioned before, this summer. Additional information will be released at our next commission meeting, which will be held on May 20th, 2021. Now, this is just the first iteration of the program, and we will be expanding this over the coming year. Again, if you have specific feedback on recommendations about the business licensing and compliance program or policies, please submit them through our Spark comment box. And I think we have one last poll question. Raina?
Thank you, Dr. Brown. We will launch the next poll question. For our next poll question, it is, would you prefer a grant that does not need to be paid back at a smaller amount of funding, or a loan that must be paid back for a larger amount of funding? Again, would you prefer a grant that does not need to be paid back at a smaller amount of funding, or a loan that must be paid back for a larger amount of funding? So this poll question is asking, would you prefer a grant that does not need to be paid back at a smaller amount of funding, or a loan which must be paid back for a larger amount of funding? Okay, so we have about 80% of the votes in, and it looks like people will prefer a grant over a loan. So would you prefer a grant that does not need to be paid back at a smaller amount of funding, or a loan that must be paid back for a larger amount of funding? People will prefer a grant. Dr. Brown?
Thank you, Raina. Let's go back to the overview for fee deferral and fee waiver, please. Yes, thank you. In April 2021, City Council approved DCR's rules and regs for the fee deferral and fee waiver programs. To date, DCR has made $250,000 available to verified social equity applicants through our fee deferral program. Additional fee deferrals will be made available as resources will allow. DCR will make an additional 650 made available for fee waivers. Fee waivers may be applied to social equity individual applicants and for their eligibility verification fees. And this is for individuals who submit a complete eligibility verification application. More details will be forthcoming with this program. If you have specific feedback or recommendations, once again, please submit them to our Spark comment box. Next slide, please. Our SEED grant program. We're really excited about this, folks. The program is funded by the California Cannabis Equity Grant for Local Jurisdictions, which provided $6 million between 2019 and 2020. We will be deploying this grant capital in 2 tranches, $5 million for SEED Grant 1.0 and $1 million for SEED Grant 2.0. SEED Grant 1.0 will utilize $5 million of the 6 in CEG funding to provide $25,000 each for Phase 3 Retail Round 1 social equity individual applicants. SEED 2.0 will utilize the $1 million of the 6 in SEG funding to provide grants up to $10,000 each to verified social equity individual applicants in 2 disbursements. They are people who are eligible to receive the first $5,000 will get this money when the Department of Cannabis Regulation approves their pre-application for further processing. The next $5,000 will be received when they are eligible for a notice of local compliance underway. I really encourage folks to apply for this grant. It's an easy process and it's available now. Please go to our website at lacitykannabis.lacity.org to our social equity page and the drop-down box for SEED. The deadline to apply for the SEED grant is Wednesday, August 18th, 2021. And for more information about this and to submit an application, as I said, you could either go to our website at cannabis.lacity.org, or you can visit elevateimpactla.com and go directly to their website. Any specific comments or questions, you can submit them through the Spark comment box. And I'll turn it back over to Raina for another poll question. I think we did that already. Okay, I'll go straight to the pro bono legal services. All right, this is another one of our programming resources, and the Los Angeles County Bar Association section, in partnership with DCR, has created a pro bono legal assistance program, which will operate through the Bar Association's Smart Law Referral Service for social equity applicants. Sorry about that, folks. This referral service is available only to social equity applicants who applied in Phase 3 Retail Round 1 and who were determined eligible for further processing. Depending on demand and availability, these services may be expanded to other applicants in the future. Now, to sign up for pro bono services, please fill out the survey located on our website and program benefits and resources page. If you would like to participate in this program, please fill out our survey and in the social equity program menu, as I said, on our website. It's a authorization agreement and a survey that you have to fill out. It's an easy application process for this benefit. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Plummer.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. This is our last poll question, and it's based on some of the information that we've presented today. So now we want to know, which of the following social equity program services or programs would be most useful to you? Social equity program priority application processing, business licensing and compliance assistance, fee deferral program and the fee waiver program, the SEED grant program, pro bono legal services, or assistance with state licensing and compliance requirements. So again, we just presented information about the social equity program's various benefits and resources. Now we want to know which of the following social equity program services and programs would be most useful to you. Social equity program priority application processing, business licensing and compliance assistance, fee deferral program and fee waiver program, the SEED grant program, pro bono legal services, or assistance with state licensing and compliance requirements. So far, we have about 45%, 50% of people attending voting. So we want to know which of the following social equity program services or programs would be most useful to you. Social equity program priority application processing, business licensing and compliance assistance, fee deferral program and fee waiver program, SEED grant program, pro bono legal services, or assistance with state licensing and compliance requirements. We have about 60 to 65% of the people participating in today's session have voted. So we're going to leave this up for a few more seconds so those who are on have the opportunity to participate in this poll. Again, we want to know from you, which of the following social equity program services or programs would be most useful to you? Social equity program priority application processing, business licensing and compliance assistance, fee deferral and fee waiver program, the SEED grant program, pro bono legal services, or assistance with state licensing and compliance requirements. All right, let's see. Oh, we have a few more coming in. I'll leave it up for a few more seconds. Let us know. Gonna be closing the poll in just a second. So let us know which of the following social equity program services and programs will be most useful to you. All right, let's see these results. So looking at the results, it looks like the number one thing people are looking for is social equity program priority application processing, followed by a tie of business licensing and compliance assistance and fee deferral program and fee waiver program. Great. Oh, actually, and then the next tie is between the SEED grant program and assistance with state licensing and compliance requirements. Thank you guys for participating in our polls today. So before we wrap up, I want to provide a few updates. Our next Spark session will be this coming Wednesday, May 12th. We will have our stakeholder comment period from 5 to 6 p.m. and then from 6 to 7 will be the session. It'll be on licensing and regulation. Again, we are wanting to get your feedback. So anything you heard today, feel free to go to our stakeholder comment box, our Spark comment box in our Spark virtual meeting room, or take a Spark survey. We have the Spark surveys in the Spark comment box in the virtual meeting room. They'll be up through June 30th. So attend our different sessions and learn more about what we do and give us some great feedback so we can include that in our final reports and recommendations. We also have a few ways that you can stay connected to Spark and to DCR. Of course, we have the Spark virtual meeting room, our DCR website at cannabis.lacity.org. We have our DCR listserv, which is our email list, our email blast list for our entire department. Then we have, of course, the Spark comment box in the virtual meeting room, our Spark surveys. We currently have 2 surveys up in the virtual meeting room, our Spark sessions. And as I mentioned earlier in today's presentation, we have a new Spark email list that you can sign up for via this Spark landing page on the website. I will now pass the presentation over to Director Packer for closing remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. And I know that we're over on time, so I'm going to try and keep my closing remarks brief, and I'm going to ask other panelists to do the same. But I do want to thank everyone again for making time today and joining us for today's Spark session, specifically on the social equity program. We have received a lot of great input already from folks through the stakeholder comment process. And I'm also recognizing that some folks are using the question and answer feature to also just provide comments. We'll capture those as well. And again, the opportunity really is to try and take all of this feedback that we're receiving to be able to analyze it and then engage with stakeholders further about how to synthesize all of these recommendations or all of this feedback into a set of recommendations that can be made before council sometime this fall. I think that the types of comments that we've received thus far have been great. And so please continue to, even after this session, if folks are organizing and want to drive different comments to the comment tool, the comment box, and then also through the surveys that we've developed, those are really going to help us as we have to make budget decisions, if we have to make administrative and management decisions about different policies and programming that we want to implement. So again, I just want to thank everyone for their participation on a Saturday morning. I do recognize that there were lots of folks who were asking non-Spark related questions or Spark questions that aren't directly related to how to participate in Spark. If there were licensing or application related questions in the Spark Q&A box, I think folks, we're trying to redirect folks to DCR licensing. Again, this is not the vehicle to get your question immediately answered. This is not a vehicle for us to immediately adopt a policy tomorrow. We have a specific period of time between now and the end of June, where we're going to be through the Spark virtual meeting room and through these Spark sessions, collecting input that will be put into a report that we will, after August, have the opportunity to engage further with. So if there is something, some service, a question that needs immediate attention, please refer those, if you are an applicant or licensee, to DCR licensing at lacity.org, or contact your specific analyst, or if it's a general question, please direct that to cannabis.lacity.org. I now want to be able to pass things over to first our commissioners, Commissioner Villa and Commissioner Narl. Again, thank you for joining. If there's any feedback that you'd like to provide or any brief closing remarks, I'd like for you all to be able to do that at this point. And we'll start with Commissioner Villa.
Thank you. The only comment that I would like to make at this juncture is that if there were some people who didn't get an opportunity to complete their comments during the comment session, please be sure to go to the Spark meeting room and leave your comment in the comment box there to complete it. And thank you everyone for your participation today.
I could go next. I just want to thank you, Director Packer and Dr. Brown and the great staff for this presentation. And I especially want to thank the participants. It is a Saturday morning, and we will incorporate, I assure you that we will incorporate all the inputs and comments that we received today. And I look forward to the next steps in this process. So thank you again.
Thank you, Commissioners Naro and Villa. Dr. Brown, do you have any brief closing remarks that you'd like to make?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I do want to thank you all for sharing your Saturday morning with us. And as this social equity program develops and grows, it will be essential to have your input and your suggestions. We are very excited to be partners with you in this initiative, and we do look forward to your participation and collective responses. I'd like to encourage everybody who is a Phase 3 Retail Round 1 verified social equity individual applicant to apply to the Seed Grant Program 1.0 and apply for the 25K, as well as other verified social equity individual applicants to apply for Seed Grant 2.0 for the $10,000. Now, just a quick reminder, there are 3 video tutorials on our website that will walk you through the Seed Grant application process. And we understand that this capital is a major barrier for social equity stakeholders. And we also realize that $25,000 and $10,000 is not enough. We will continue to go after grant dollars and other funding sources that we can disperse to the social equity community, applicants and licensees moving forward. Please continue to stay engaged and communicate with us. Once again, to apply to the Seed Grant Program, go to cannabis.lacity.org to our social equity page and the drop-down menu for Seed. Have a great weekend, everybody, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brown and commissioners for participating. Thank you to my staff and MBI Media for helping us to coordinate this Spark session, and to the stakeholders for their participation. I encourage folks to continue to join us for these Spark sessions. We know that we can't meet in person right now, so we're trying to do everything that we can to leverage technology to be able to stay engaged and to receive your feedback. But if we don't hear it from you, then we're not in a position to engage with City Council and the mayor about these recommendations. So again, I'm seeing great recommendations, input from stakeholders, and I appreciate that. So thank you. And this concludes today's Spark session.